Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. Today I want to talk about whether I would put some money into Bitcoin right now, and talk about the risks because we all know that we're at a very high price, right? Um, and I see a lot of people talk about, oh, Bitcoin's overvalued, a crash is coming, and things like that. That's why I want to show the metrics on why I think Bitcoin could have a massive pullback soon. And first, we're going to look at sentiment, and we are going to look at the net unrealized profit and loss, so the NUPL. The NUPL basically shows the difference between relative unrealized profits and loss. And when it's very high, there's a lot of profits, unrealized profits, and so there's a lot of greed. Many people would hold longer. People would think like, is this a top, and things like that. But at some point, they must sell, right? They must bring supply into the market again. That's how everything works, supply and demand. Calling bottoms is relatively easy compared to calling tops of the market. And so, based on historical patterns, right now, Bitcoin is at a very high price. What also indicates Bitcoin to be very high, at least for me, is also the percent supply in profit. We don't want to look at loss because it's been a bullish market since 2022. It's been 3 years since there was a bearish market. The percent supply and profit shows the percent of circulating supply and profit. So I think there's around 19 million circulating supply, and almost 100% of it is in profit, which is, a lot, right? And it's been there since beginning of 2024, like the NUPL. And so that indicates to me that it's quite high. The thing is, when looking at these metrics, when it just reaches that area, like for example here, you can't call it to be bearish, right? Like as you can see in the past, what happens is that it reaches 100% like for a long time, and Bitcoin price still shoots up like a lot, right? Like for example here, it went from around 800 to 15,000. So I'm not saying it'll crash immediately. I'm not saying that it's starting now. Bitcoin price could still go up. Don't get me wrong. But in a long-term view, it is going to come down at some point, at least until the percent supply and profit is at least 50%, I mean. Um, and so yeah, the next metric we're going to look at is the stock to flow ratio. And what it does is the model assumes that scarcity drives value. Every 4 years, there's a halving, as you know, that cuts the supply in half. Not the total supply in half, it cuts the amount of new supply in half. Meaning, at the beginning of Bitcoin's history, miners could pump out a lot of Bitcoin, right? But now, after many halvings, it's it's cut in half and then cut in half and then cut in half until it reaches 21 million, which is the total supply in the market. But right now there's 19 million. With this graph here, we can see that when the halving happens, it cuts the supply production in half, meaning supply drops and demand drives the price up. That's why we see a lot of bullish right after halving, and it makes sense. But after a period of time, that demand slowly dries up and the supply takes over demand. That's why right after halving, we have that bullish trend, then we have a bearish one because supply overtakes demand, and there's not enough demand to drive the price up. Um, and halving happened last year. That shot the price up, maybe not as much as before, but it did shoot the price up. Bitcoin's price has historically followed the stock to flow ratio. Therefore, it is a model that can be used to predict future of Bitcoin valuations. And then we have the supply in profit and loss. This basically shows this, but this only shows the profit. But we can see with the loss also. When the profit and supply is at the same range, that's a low of the market. Supply drops, loss goes up, and when it reaches at the same area, that's like a bottom of the market. So to call bottoms is relatively easy, like I said, but calling tops is very difficult, right? Um, and yeah, right now there's no sign of long term, like there's no sign of it saying this is a bottom for the long term. Just saying. And to summarize this video, I basically just want to say that Bitcoin right now is a very high risk, and there's a very, very high chance of it falling. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. I basically love to go through metrics, and I love how history always repeats itself. And learning about the past can really help you gauge what could happen in the future. And remember that the market is a probability, not a certainty. So you can never be too sure of anything, but you can always take risks based on that probability. And yeah, I hope you guys invest well, trade well, whatever you guys do in the market. Hope you guys perform well. And yeah, see you next time.